Welcome back to Prevent-A-Thon 6. I'm your host, LuckyKerplucky. We're going to get right into this next run. It's going to be cozy and pretty and just a really fun time. Illegally Sam is running Rebel Transmute any percent. Show us this run, Sam.
Alrighty then. Hello there, everybody. I'm Illegally Sam, and as you just heard, this is going to be Rebel Transmute any percent. I'm not here alone tonight, though, because I am joined by my commentator.
Hey, how's it going? My name's SnapKick. I also have run this game a couple of times. Happy to show it off with y'all.
So yeah, as I'm sure everybody knows exactly what this game is, because it's like the most popular indie game ever. But this is an indie Metroidvania. It wears its inspirations on its sleeve, which I'm sure you will be able to pick up on very easily as the game continues. But you know, it's a Metroidvania, it's an indie game, it's any percent. You know what all of those words mean.
We should hope so, at least.
And if you don't, you'll learn pretty quickly. But
yeah, this game is a lot of neat concepts that you've seen done before, but refined to a really nice degree. Comes together to make a really enjoyable run.
But I think with that, let's go ahead and get started. So time will start after I clear this autosave box. So let's get started in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Thank you. Alright, as everybody knows, the story doesn't matter, so we're just going to get right into things. And as you can see, right off the bat in this run, we are already schmoovin'. Because this game starts you off with a ground slide. And that is going to be the...
And it is a ground slide.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It is a ground slide with a lot of momentum, too, that can carry forward into a jump. So, yes, it is very bread and butter.
So yeah, you're going to be seeing that pretty much the entire run, because that's the fun part. Is this game's overall movement is just really fun to utilize. Alright, but...
Yeah, I don't think either of us have ever run a Metroidvania before, but we both ended up picking this up as a run because it just feels really good.
I technically have run a Metroidvania before, but like not seriously. Because I technically know how to do Hollow Knight any percent. But I never got nearly as serious with that game as I did with this game, because both of us had... Not only were in with this game at launch, we were in this game pre-launch, because we started with the Kickstarter and the Kickstarter demo.
That's right. When this game was early in production during its Kickstarter phase, there was a pretty cool demo up. That was his first area. And the developer held a speedrun contest that we both partook in. So when the game finishes, you'll see our names in the credits listed for taking in doing top 5 in that competition.
Right, and that was our first wave fight, because this game has a lot of combat, because not too many Metroidvanias don't have combat. There are few. But combat is the other bread and butter of this run beyond the awesome movement, because we've got a little stubby arm blaster, and that's got to be our main weapon for the entire game. We're going to supplement it a few times with some other stuff, but the main gist of that is, you know, it's got a short range and it has knockback, but once we get some upgrades, it's going to be doing a lot more damage.
Yeah, and that knockback can also be used for pogoing purposes, as we'll see as the game runs on more and more. It's a very visceral feeling weapon. It's very nice once you get used to it.
It does take getting used to, but once you get there, it's a lot of fun to use. So we have to bait this thing into shooting that block right there. It's the only time in the run we have to do that, because it's the introduction to those little gelatinous blocks. Because right now we can't destroy them except by baiting enemies into destroying them. But the first upgrade that we're going to get lets us destroy them ourselves, so it's just introducing them to us. But now it's time for the first boss. I hope everybody can count, because we're going to be counting to 24.
I love the count. Alright, I'm gonna let Sam do some counting and I'll explain what's going on here. This is gray matter. Gray matter has a very interesting bug that was found during the demo runs. There's a two-parter to this fight. After about 24 hits, the boss will go into a second phase. However, if we initiate that second phase while the boss is stuck in the bottom left corner after doing a slam attack, like so.
We're gonna have to wait for the next one. The boss was not too cooperative with his patterns, but there we go. You know, he's just stuck there.
Very nice. And the second phase.
Yeah, thankfully, phase 2 for that fight, if you were to mess that up, isn't like that much slower than doing that trick. But if the RNG cooperates and you're able to get that quickly, it does save about like 5 to 10 seconds. Also, it's a lot funnier to just have the boss stuck in the corner than having him actually do his second phase. So if you're able to do it, why not do it? It's funny. But now that we've got our first upgrade, we can destroy those little gelatinous blocks, and also it increases the range of our gun attack just a little bit, which makes combat just a tiny bit easier. But now we move into the next part of the run, which we have to deal with these flying guys that drop stuff on us. Don't ask what it is, I don't know.
Unfortunate positioning there. It's simply a mystery.
Alright, but coming up is the first, like, kind of, like, movement tech glitch of the run, because this is quarry skip. Yeah, let's do that. So yeah, basically by holding down and left on specifically the D-pad and not the analog stick, and then jumping up and barely landing on a ledge, and then sliding, we're able to just get hyperspeed. I don't know why it works, I just know that it does work, so I make use of it.
One of those little mysteries that, yeah, ends up working out very, very well for this specific part of the run. Not used anywhere else currently, but yeah, I could absolutely see it being used in the future more.
Yeah, it basically can be done almost anywhere, but that's the one spot where it lets us do something that we wouldn't be able to otherwise do. Otherwise, it would just give us hyperspeed in random spots if we were to try and use it elsewhere. But now it's time for the next boss. If I do this boss correctly, it will not be able to actually fight properly. Because...
Correct. Carapace has a rage phase it goes into when you see those red particles pop up, and as long as you do enough damage, it just keeps going into the rage phase over and over, more or less.
And the rage phase, it only has the one attack where it jumps, slams, and shoots out those shockwaves. If it's not in the rage phase, it has multiple other attacks that are a lot harder to dodge and are a lot harder to punish without taking damage. So by keeping it in its rage phase, it's that simple. We're already done. Yeah, if I were to have managed the damage a little bit better, I actually would have killed the boss basically immediately after it exits the ball the second time, but unfortunately I missed a couple of hits here and there.
Still very not bad. And as a reward for our first boss fight, we get our first, well, I'll say real upgrade is a nice, cozy little air dash. You know it, you love it.
Yeah, it's the first real boss fight, and we get our first real upgrade. Because we did technically have another boss fight, but we also cheesed the whole thing, so... Is it really a boss fight if you cheese it? If a boss fight is cheesed in the woods, is anybody there to hear it? I think that's the phrase, right?
The boss fight is cheese.
Alright, but now that we have the air dash, we don't have our full movement kit, not even close, but this is when our movement kit really starts to open up. Because in addition to our ground dash, since we also have our air dash, we're just going to be chaining both of them all over the place. Also, I managed to barely go fast enough to avoid that explosion that does nothing except look cool. But I am setting my next respawn point here, and something I did at the first respawn point that I didn't mention is I actually unequipped a couple of augments. So augments in this game, if you've ever played Hollow Knight, they're kind of like the charms in that game. So basically, you have a limited number of slots, and you can equip augments that you pick up throughout the game to modify your abilities, give you bonuses, give you, extra moves that you can chain with your attacks or your jumps and your dashes and everything, which will be very important later in the run. But the game starts you out with 4 basic augments that are basically your basic abilities, where one is your HUD, one is your ability to heal, one is your compass showing yourself on the minimap, and then one of them is basically affecting what happens when you die. The 2 that I unequipped were the compass on the minimap, because I know where I'm going, and the other one is what happens when you die. So normally when you die in this game, you drop a health core, and until you get back to where you died, you have 1 less max health, unless you go to a checkpoint and spend some money to get your health core back. The reason we unequipped that is because we don't actually care about losing money instead of health, because if you unequip it, you lose 30% of your money instead of a health core. And, losing health and having to get that health back is slower and less convenient than just losing money. So we just unequip it right away, because our money routing accounts for any lost money.
Exactly, because there is a wonderful feature in this game that is a forced respawn, which we absolutely abuse along the way to just basically teleport across the map.
Yeah, because remember that respawn point I set? I will not be setting another respawn point until after the next boss. And so as a result, that's the forced respawn. I don't want to do it yet, but I'm just showing it off for you. But after the next...
grab this teleport space here for later.
Yeah, speaking of going around the map fast, that was a fast travel station. That is the only fast travel station we unlock during the run that we don't use immediately. And that is because this is the one spot in the run that we actually do need to come back to later. Because this first part of the run is basically just going around getting all the upgrades we need, and then the second part of the run is actually completing the requirements for any percent.
Those requirements being going to 3 separate areas in the game, as well as 1 bonus area to essentially just hit triggers that progress the plot.
Also, remember we mentioned pogoing? Yeah, we're doing that now.
Yeah, do you like pogo?
Alright. But now we have to fight what was in that giant cocoon, because it's time for Sniper Moth.
It's time for Sniper Moth.
First, he's got to get me.
Yeah. This is a really interesting fight that had a pretty major redesign in a major update that came out about a year ago, I think.
Yeah, it came out beginning of the year, 2025.
Yeah. So, this fight's pretty different. Still Sniper Moth all the same. Blows you to the side, and you have to go up and catch him, but in the meantime, you also gotta dodge all these targeted sniper shots.
Yeah, these lasers are very mean, and I will be taking safe and slow routes at times while trying to climb up to those wings, specifically just so I don't get hit by them. Because if you're not careful, you will absolutely get demolished by those lasers. They are very, very mean and very good at tracking you.
Very much so.
But yeah, basically, you can only do a limited amount of damage each cycle. So I just want to maximize the damage, get it out as fast as possible, and then 3 damage cycles later, the boss is dead. Yeah, the way the boss fight used to work was the arena actually didn't change. You just stayed in the previous arena and fought it there, and it had just like a completely different moveset. It was a lot easier and a lot faster, but less interesting. Alright.
Yeah, I think this ended up being a much cooler fight.
I went for a fast kill there, but I got a little too risky there. That's unfortunate.
Oh, yeah, that's
fine. It's fine.
We'll just walk it back.
Yep. Yeah,
Is now a good time to jump in with the announcement?
Absolutely, because we're just going back to the boss so we can beat it again.
Excellent. Okay, so while you go for a little mosey and a little walk, if you're just joining us in chat and watching, you're watching Prevent-A-Thon 6. We are here till the end of Sunday raising money for Little Warriors. Little Warriors' mission is to change the trajectory of child sexual abuse through education, advocacy, treatment, and prevention. Really a wonderful cause. And your donations not only help this wonderful cause, but they go towards our incentive. And right now we have an incentive open for Time Spinner. So that's going to be closer to the end of the night. If we meet this incentive, $100 to meet it, we will randomize the bosses necessary to win the game. And just randomize all of them, just, YOLO. Randomize all the bosses, and then boss scaling will be turned on, so bosses will be more difficult the further into the game they are. This is already a hard run. We can make it even harder on the runner. So, ! Donate in chat, and get those donations in.
I will say from personal experience, the Time Spinner Rando is definitely very, very cool. It's a super fun watch, and Boss Rando, yeah, it's really, really cool. You should definitely donate for that. All right, we're about back.
I have not seen the Rando, but I do know those bosses are fun.
They are. I am, frankly, a much bigger fan of the game as a rando than as casual, so I'd be very excited to see that myself. Yeah,
but enough about Time Spinner. We're just about back to the moth fight, because Sniper Moth gonna snipe. Unfortunately, we do have to do the entirety of Phase 1 again, but that just means you get to watch me pogo for 10 seconds straight again. And who doesn't want to see me pogo for 10 seconds straight?
We love to watch a little bit of cheese here. But yeah, this is definitely one of the harder boss fights in the game now, especially being completely different from how it was originally. It's something I think we're still kind of getting used to and still finding strategies for here and there.
Yeah, because the old version of this Phase 2, it wasn't hard, but it was a really difficult fight to do quickly, because as opposed to being limited to how much damage you could do in each phase, or each cycle of a boss, before it was, like, time-gated, so, like, you would basically just do as much damage as you can before the boss runs away and flies back up top. And as a result, you would actually be able to two-cycle the fight if you were fast enough, which is why it was difficult, because you have to make sure you do enough damage fast enough to two-cycle it. And also, I think it was probably possible to one-cycle it, but literally nobody ever pulled it off in a run or in practice, so unconfirmed, but that just goes to show how difficult that would be. But now that is not a thing anymore.
Unfortunately. This game's boss fights are definitely no joke. There are, well, most of them. There's a couple that you'll see are very, very cheesable, such as the first boss fight we did.
And good old Bartholomew.
Good old Bartholomew. I can't wait to see him. I love that guy.
Alright, don't have full health going into Phase 3, so I'm just not gonna... I'm gonna play it safe. The reason I died is because I went for damage boost strats to speed up the third cycle here, but I already died once, I'm not gonna do that again. I'll just play it safe.
Smart move. That's definitely something that makes these boss fights harder in a speedrun setting too, is you can play safe, and when you know the fights, they're not like all that hard, but they are way, way, way harder when you want to go fast, and going fast requires that you take a lot of damage. But we made it through easy peasy. Well done.
Yeah, I wasn't even at 1 health this time. Alright, and our reward for doing all of that is that I get the ability to shoot bombs.
These bombs are really, really great in this run. So they'll break those little coral-looking blocks next to us. That's sort of their, like, key function. But they also just do damage, and throughout the run, it is very useful to just spam them whenever we're doing combat, because it's essentially a second source of DPS.
Yeah, so the bombs, the amount of damage they do is equal to about 1.5 times your basic shot. And so There's enemies that, you know, are going to get one shot by the bomb that didn't before, or I could attach a bomb to them, fire off like 2 shots, and it'll kill them with 2 shots and a bomb instead of 4 shots or something like that. So it's going to be a very nice supplement to my damage overall.
Exactly, and right here we're using them with a little bit of cool meta knowledge. So those 2 platforms that Sam rode up on are always there, but they are blocked by some coral blocks, meaning that you would have to go all the way up to know that they're there. But if you just know where they are from below, you can just throw a bomb all the way up and skip a good chunk of that room. Same thing here. There is a coral block blocking a rather slow elevator. But if we just shoot it from below and have a little bit of patience, catch right up.
Yeah, despite how slow this elevator is, it's still faster than doing an entire wave fight in the room right next to this. Also, that one enemy was just kind of being rude.
Yeah.
Which they do sometimes.
Yeah. Along with all this, the bomb has a secret other function that we will come across later.
Yeah, it is not important yet. But keep in mind that, bomb explosions often make things move in games.
Alright, you'll notice a lot of these little jellyfish, I'm gonna call them, looking dudes. They all just try to blow. The small ones try to explode on you in the direction you hit them. Big ones burst open like that, and we're about to find their mother.
Yeah, this boss is very annoying.
This is Bloat Specimen. Bloat Specimen does a lot of little things, including spawning smaller exploding jellyfish, which can be really hard to avoid. On top of that, Bloat Specimen's really easy to push around by mistake. They're scaring me. Especially when it turns like it will bounce around like a volleyball.
Yeah, this is another boss that had changes made to it in the update that we mentioned. Because before, it was actually a lot harder to move it around, because when it was dark blue, it basically never had knockback, and it was only moved around when it was light blue. Now it has knockback all the time, it just, the amount of knockback changes. Also, it didn't used to have that slam attack. That's also just completely new. And kind of annoying if you're not prepared for it, like when this update first came out and we were all playing this boss and it had a new move all of a sudden.
Another boss that, yeah, on top of just being really, really hard, like one of the hardest bosses in the game, maybe tied or second place to one other boss. Very hard to do fast.
Yeah, but thankfully, I didn't die. Despite giving SnapKick a bit of a heart attack, I made it through.
Yeah, just a touch.
Don't worry, I also
walk out the other end.
I was also a little scared. But now we can do this.
Don't blame you. Now we can do that. We get a bounce, and that height that Sam got is not the normal height you're supposed to have. You'll see as he bounces off these enemies, that's the normal height of the bounce. What we found is that by abusing some coyote frames we get off of a jump, we can essentially time a jump perfectly along with a bounce, and it gives us what we call a super bounce. It gives us a lot of height. And on top of that, you'll see along the way here that this is where the bomb's other function comes into play. And it's a bit more of an intended mechanic than the super bounce, but it is sort of a secret function that's not ever mentioned, where if you throw a bomb on the ground and you bounce off of it, it gives you more height. Now, naturally, you can combine this with the super bounce and you get a super bomb bounce. You will see the crazy heights we get to later when that comes into play.
Yep. Yeah, the now that we have basically our full movement kit, outside of technically one more thing, we're just going to be able to go almost anywhere we want, and that opens things up immensely. Because on top of that, we just picked up our first augment of the run. We have the double jump now, because the double jump in this game is an optional augment that you don't need to pick up for some reason. But as a result,
yeah, it is.
We have it now, so...
Yeah, it's definitely not necessary to complete the game, but in our case, it does some very, very, very important things for us.
Yeah, it is required for the route that we use in the speedrun, but is not required to beat the game.
Now for our second augment we'll be getting, we first have to beat this big bug thing. I don't even know what entirely it is. Weird pill bug. Because when you beat him, it opens a door just back this way, which has our second augment that will increase our DPS by a lot. It is a shotgun mod for the blaster.
Yeah, the way the wave blaster works is it adds 4 extra shots in a cone around the main blaster shot. Each of those shots does a quarter of the damage of the main blaster shot, and each of those shots also gives you spark blood. And spark blood, I don't think we actually mentioned it, is how you heal.
Oh yeah.
It's that little bar in the top left under the pips of health. And when it's full, it lets me heal. Normally it takes you 6 hits in order to heal using Spark Blood, but each of those hits from Wave Blaster gives you Spark Blood, so it just makes things so much easier in more ways than one, because I also just spent money to get a damage upgrade, which increases my damage even further. So that damage upgrade increases my damage by about 50%. Wave Blaster, because it has these 4 shots that each do a quarter of the damage of the main shot, increases my damage by another 2 times if I hit enemies with all 4 shots, in addition to the main shot. And so now I do 3 times as much damage.
And it is very, very, very important damage. We will still be spending a little bit of time on bosses, but it will be much less, and it will be way, way, way easier, as well as allowing for a cheese strat with a certain fish that we'll deal with later.
Alright, but first we got to move on to the next segment by climbing up this little tunnel here. By destroying these blocks. This room is kind of annoying casually when you have to climb up it, and it's also a little annoying in the speedrun, but it's the fastest route, so we gotta take it. I also managed to pass the hardest skill check in the run, remembering to equip the augments.
Yeah, no, legitimately, it can be a little easy to forget your augment management, especially doing menuing quickly as well. It's easy to just completely forget.
Alright, but now we're in the mines. The mines is, casually, it's the hardest area in the game, platforming-wise. And in the speedrun, it's also the hardest area in the game, but not directly because of the platforming, even though that is part of it. The reason Mines is the hardest area is because it has a very specific skip. Good old Mines skip.
Fantastic Mine skip. It is the, I guess, only and most major RNG check in the game. And it is one heck of an RNG check. It saves a lot of time. So what we're going to essentially do is there is a shortcut at the bottom left of this map that is sort of like the exit from this area. The boss is on the other side. You're intended to come from the other end. However, you'll notice a switch there above the doorway. We can't hit that ourselves, but these teleporting blue guys can hit it. So we have to sit here and basically just wait for one of them to get a shot off on the switch for us by ideally teleporting directly on top of it and shooting, because their shots can trigger it for some reason.
Yeah, alternatively, I'm going to be attaching bombs to them, because if they teleport right next to it while the bomb's attached to them, I can make the bomb actually... Okay, come on, they were just taunting me there. All 3 of them are right next to the switch and none of them hit it.
Oh, that's so mean.
But yeah, if they teleport right next to the switch and the bomb is still attached to it, I can hit the switch with the bomb instead. It's a little riskier because I might accidentally kill these guys, but that's okay. All in the name of speed.
All in the name of speed. Yeah, this is definitely one of those things where it just completely changes the course of your run. And happening about 20 minutes in is painful, but if it happens quickly, it is an absolute dopamine rush.
Yeah, and sometimes if it happens quickly, you still mess up the trick that's immediately after this, which is the actual mind skip.
The the actual part of Mindskip, yes, and it's why we picked up the double jump. So hopefully
There we go.
we'll be able to see that soon.
All right, let me get some extra health off these guys real quick, because this next trick actually has the risk of me dying, and I would prefer not to die if I can avoid it. So let me try and
So I'll try to briefly explain it while Sam gets ready. When you come from the other end, as you're intended to, you're supposed to be the boss that we are now going to, and have done a wall jump. You'll see in this room that how the wall jump is intended to be used. But we have another way of going about this. So the simple gist of it is Sam will shoot a bomb forward and then pause the game. And while the game is paused, the timer on the bomb will continue to tick.
That's a little sketchy, but we're good.
We're good. Okay, very well done. And then when you unpause the game, the bomb will go off. Now, right as that happens, Sam will then use the double jump, which has a fair bit of momentum that carries you upward rather slowly, but is boosted by the bomb. And this completely bypasses the need to have the wall climb.
Yeah, there is an augment that exists that lets you detonate bombs remotely, and we used to grab that in order to do the trick instead. It was a lot harder, a lot more finicky, because you had to actually manually detonate the bomb with a button press. And then it was discovered that the bomb timer just continues while the game is paused, and it made it so much easier.
Yeah, very much so.
Also a lot faster.
And it gets us... Yeah, seriously. It gets us to the boss here, though, which is just a giant room.
This boss is... It's not free by any means, but it's not too difficult.
Yeah, it's a lot of just catching him while he's moving around, and you can see now that having the blaster upgrade and having the bomb increases what we have to do by a lot, but yeah, we're already on to phase 2. It makes this so much faster. The only hard part here is, yeah, there's a lot to manage in this boss fight with the drills coming at you and such.
Yeah, but thankfully we do so much damage that we're able to defeat the boss before it even goes under the lava.
Yeah, because second phase, he'll pop down and become way harder to hit and deal with.
Yeah, but fun.
But now we get the aforementioned wall climb.
Yeah, and now our movement kit on the ground is actually complete. Note, I did have to specify on the ground because there is water.
There is, in fact, water.
Alright, but now it's on to the actual first objective that is required for beating the game. Because we have to...
Exactly, we have to go to 3 different rooms, activate computers with a little platforming challenge, and then bail. And Sam's going to show off a really cool way of getting into this back area by using well-timed dashes and the wall climb on just that little lip to make it back into this intended route, where normally you would need what's sort of like the crystal dash from Hollow Knight, but we just don't get that because schmovement.
Yeah, that's the other reason we need the double jump, because even if mind skip wasn't possible, we'd still need it for that specifically.
Very much. Beware the spider room.
Yeah, these guys are very annoying, because they could just be in the way and jump on you, and yeah, they're very annoying.
Just jumpy little guys. They do as they need to.
I'll just restore my health in the next room. I will open up this door just in the off chance that I die. I shouldn't die, but there's no reason to play it risky when it takes 2 seconds to open the door.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, in a PB attempt, no need for that, but this is not a PB attempt. But it was just... It ate my wall climb. That was unfortunate.
Yeah. This will be a really good... Assuming things don't go too poorly, this will be a really good showcase of the wall climb plus super bounces plus super bomb bounces. This is a really long climb up casually to a boss, and there's like one checkpoint along the way. I think we already passed at this point, But with the super bomb bounce, you can see we just fly all the way up there. It's that simple.
Unfortunately, these things that shoot shots out at me are kind of annoying, but if you're very, very careful, you can get past them without taking damage. If I wanted to go as fast as possible, I'd probably just damage boost through them, but there's no need for that.
Yeah, especially with this upcoming boss, it will be good to have as much health as you possibly can. Because this is Cerebellum.
This is... Casually, and even in the speedrun, it's not that hard of a boss fight because it does give you ample time to heal. The problem is doing this fight fast, because as you can see, it just flies around the arena doing whatever it wants the entire time. If it decides to be mean and fly away from you, you just kind of gotta chase it down. If it decides to fly out of the arena into the walls and you can't hit it, then good luck. Just gotta wait for it to come back. But yeah, like, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of room to heal in this fight, but if you want to do it as fast as possible, you're just chasing down the boss, pogoing off of it, hitting it as much as you physically can the entire time. Now we're on to Phase 2. Phase 2 is simultaneously easier and harder, because it does technically have more moves, but the moves are kind of easier to dodge. But if I'm going fast, then, you know, dodging is a little bit less important. Okay. It damaged me before I could get my heal off, so that was a little scary, but we're good. Because this laser attack here is kind of annoying because there's no way to tell where the laser's going to pop out until they start charging up. And yeah, because of that, it's just, you gotta hope that they don't spawn on top of you. Also, I didn't mention it, but the boss does turn into a Beyblade in this phase.
The boss does, in fact, let it rip.
Alright, but the reason we killed that boss, you might have thought it was a little weird that we just, like, forced respawned the moment the boss was dead. The reason for that is the boss doesn't actually give you any upgrades or anything. The reason we killed that boss is specifically because of a single door. Because there is a door in the mines that we have to get past in order to get to the subsystem that we have to reactivate. And the only way to open that door is by killing Cerebellum.
It also opens the door on the way to, past the trams, on the way to the lab, or the weird dream sequence bit.
The thing is,
So, 2 doors open.
I forget if it's actually supposed to do that, and it just doesn't actually open it, or what, because I've seen it not actually be required for those doors. It's weird.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I'm not positive if it does or is not required for that, but all I know is that it's 100% required for this door.
Yeah, fair enough.
But now that we defeated Cerebellum, we can go reactivate the first subsystem. It's not... These platforming puzzles are actually a little tricky casually, because you have to activate all of these switches so that they're all active at the same time, and they have timers on them. So if you're not fast enough, they will deactivate before you get them all. But obviously in a speedrun, we know how to do them fast, so there's nothing to worry about with any of them.
Exactly. With a little bit of super bouncing and good bomb usage, it's pretty simple to just grab all of them back to back.
Alright, and then now that we reactivate the subsystem, we just force respawn. You might have noticed that little arena-shaped room right next to the terminal. I say it's arena-shaped because, yes, that is actually a wave fight, and it only activates after you reactivate the subsystem. So on the way out, you're supposed to do an arena fight after each of the subsystems. But by force respawning, we just skip all of them. So that's how that room is supposed to look.
The respawn button is one of the best things in this game.
Yeah, it's like, in addition to genuinely just being good casually in case you were to get soft locked, or you were to just like want to go back to your last spawn point quickly and you don't want to jump into lava 4 times or something, in the speedrun it is genuinely part of the reason why the route is as fast as it is. But now we make our way out of the mines in genuinely a not easy platforming segment, because in that update we mentioned that like overhauled a whole bunch of stuff. Pretty much all of this lava flowing down from the ceiling wasn't there before, so this room just became significantly harder to navigate.
Yeah, of note, that lava also voids you out as if you fell into the lava on the floor, so makes it even harder.
It voids you out like 3/4 of the time. For some reason, it doesn't void you out sometimes, and I don't know why. It's really weird, and I never expect it when it happens, so I just don't get hit by the lava, then I don't have to worry about it.
Just don't get hit, forehead.
Alright, but now we're in the subways. Subways is kind of just a long platforming segment with some water that pushes you. So, Lucky, if you've got anything you want to say, it's not too much happening here.
Thanks so much. Just want to let everyone know that we do have the incentive open for the boss randomizer for Time Spinner. That is going to be later on tonight. And if we meet this incentive, it will randomize all of the bosses, including the 3 that are necessary to win the game. As well, boss scaling will be turned on, so bosses will be more difficult the further into the game they are. That's going to take an already difficult game and make it even more difficult. And all of those donations, they go to the incentive. They also support Little Warriors, the charity that we are going to be supporting all weekend long. One of the programs that Little Warriors runs is the Be Brave Ranch. And the Be Brave Bridge Intensive is a comprehensive online program that connects specialized counselors and coaches with children, teens, and parents impacted by trauma who might not otherwise receive timely mental health support. These programs are designed to provide immediate mental health support to anyone affected by trauma. To learn more, go to littlewarriors.ca/bridge-online-programs or type !bridge in chat.
Alright, now we're in the sunken basin and it's time for more sequence breaking. Because we just hit that switch through a wall using our bombs.
Yeah, very much you are meant to go a long ways around to actually get in here, but just use a bomb, it's easy.
Yeah, the way this area is supposed to work is you're supposed to go to the right side of this area, hit a terminal, it adjusts the water levels in some of these rooms and opens some like tunnels that you're supposed to be able to get into once you activate that terminal. And by doing all of that, you're able to go back to the center, go to the left side, go to the room with the boss in it, go fight the boss, get an upgrade, blah, blah, blah. By doing this, we can just go down, go around, go straight to the boss. We don't have to do any of that extra fluff. Unfortunately, we do have to do a little wave fight, but that's about it.
Yeah, because this is otherwise a pretty long area for what's essentially just one upgrade and, you know, the third major progression point, or second in this case, one of 3.
It's a Metroidvania. It's the first through third, depending on how you play the game.
Yeah, because you can do these in any order you want, but just so happens this is the fastest route.
Yeah. There's a very high likelihood this is the first one you do casually, but that is not guaranteed.
That is one of the really cool points about this game that I think was a little divisive among some players, but I personally really liked is it's possible to just get to a lot of places using smart movement and little bits of cheese. So it means you can get into places you really shouldn't be, but it also means you can get into places you shouldn't be, and that's fun.
Alright, this is Bartholomew. It's our favorite easy fish boss. I say he's easy because he attacks, then you heal, then he attacks, then you heal, then he attacks, then you heal, then he attacks, then you heal, and then he's dead.
Thank you, Bartholomew. Very cool.
That was actually a little sketchier than that fight normally is, but that's only because I went into the fight with 2 health as opposed to more than 2. But even then, the fight is still very easy. And that's how you can tell this is definitely meant to be one of the earlier segments that you're supposed to do, because the fact that we do so much more damage than we would normally demolishes him. Also, whee! Whee! That is one of my favorite rooms. But yeah, now that we have the ability to swim... Oh, I messed up the movement here. I'll have to wait an extra cycle. Unfortunate, but that's fine. But now that we have the ability to swim, the way swimming works in this game is it's an underwater dash, essentially. and that lets us obviously go a lot faster underwater. But in addition to that, if you hold the A button, which is how you like swim up normally when you don't have the dash, it instantly recharges your dash. So if you just hold the A button and mash the right trigger, you just constantly dash underwater, and it is very fast and a lot of fun, actually.
It feels really good to do. In addition, this swim upgrade gives you a sort of shine spark state you can get into while you're in water if you enter the water quickly enough without, bouncing or going to the bounce like we do there. However, we sadly don't see that in the run here, but it is very, very fun to pull off.
Yeah, it is the intended way of doing that puzzle there, but why do what's intended?
True.
All right, but now...
So
go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, we're at a point now where before we can do the third and final major progression point, there's a little bit of story happening where the AI that was helping us is now not helping us, and we need to go to a little lab and just do a little bit of story stuff so that we can continue on.
Yeah, we kind of just didn't address the part where we picked up Quirk, which is the AI that we've been using to assist in our journey. Don't worry about it too much.
Story shmory.
Yeah, story isn't what gets us more movement.
True.
Although we do already have all of the shmovement, so even if there was story that gave us shmovement, it wouldn't matter at this point. Alright, but this lab section is, in the speedrun, one of the hardest areas to do quickly because there's just a lot of enemies shooting projectiles at you and jumping at you and everything, and you're just if you're not careful, you'll just take damage the entire time.
Yeah, these pink guys are pretty hard to avoid. They are very good at homing in on you. And then up ahead, there are some shots that can travel through the walls.
Yeah, and these shots track you, and yeah, you could see why this room's very annoying. Alright, but as long as I get through here with health, it doesn't matter that I took damage. Alright, thankfully it's mostly just those two rooms. Oops.
Mostly.
Yeah, this room's normally not that bad, but that one guy wanted to be annoying. Alright, but now we have a little platforming segment that's actually not that hard because we could just do this and jump over the whole thing.
Whee! Yep. Normally there's platforms that appear as you get close to them. You have to go down and around, but...
Alright, but now that we have the synaptic blade, we can go do our last little detour to complete the story before we fight the final boss. And this is why we opened that one fast travel station so many minutes ago. I don't remember how long ago it was.
The wild.
Yeah. It was somewhere between 10 minutes and 10 hours.
We can confidently say it happened at some point. Alright.
Alright.
A bit more climbing back up here, and this is the area in which you would normally get your sort of Hollow Knight crystal dash, but we have the double jump, and we have big brains that allow for big movement. So, we're gonna just move on through.
Alright, there we go.
Nice.
Yeah, that room's not that difficult, but if you underestimate it, you will mess up and hit something. And also here we see a conspicuously arena-shaped room. Don't worry about it.
Never gonna see it again.
Alright, but now we have our last terminal.
And along with this terminal, once it's done, we have another one of those computer platforming sections with, yet again, another very funny way of skipping past both the first and second part of it.
Yeah, so the way you're supposed to go through this area is there's like 3 enemies that you have to go defeat, and when you defeat them, a bunch of platforms show up. You can make it to the exit, or you could just do this, and we're done.
Well done, well done.
But don't worry, there's another
second part.
platforming segment right after this. They thought of that. So we just force respawn, kicks us out, and we beat it.
We simply do not agree to do the platforming section, and you're just allowed to leave. You can just say no to platforming, and you can just walk away. It's that easy.
Alright, but now that we have all 3 of the subsystems active, it is time to go fight the final boss. The final boss is not easy. It's not that bad once you know what you're doing. But especially phase 2, there is not a lot of room to heal. So like until you know exactly what specific spot in the attack pattern is safe to heal during, you're gonna be on edge pretty much the whole time because you're not sure when you're gonna die. But thankfully, I know when to heal. I know how to do this pretty quickly, so we should be fine.
Yeah, casually this boss fight is super, super hard, but it's really, really fun speedrun, especially if you want to optimize for damage.
I should specify it's super hard, assuming you did 100% of the game and get every damage upgrade first.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because if you have all the damage upgrades, this boss is kind of a pushover.
I remember when I first casually played the game, there was a bug with one of the augments that just instantly killed the final boss.
Yeah, that's also a thing.
It.
We still don't really understand what the hell that was. Because, like,
I don't know.
It didn't always consistently work for some reason. It only, like, sometimes worked the way we thought it did. And if it was consistent, I did at one point lab out a way to get the upgrade that lets you do it that only took, like, an extra minute or 2 to go out of your way and grab it. And for the purpose of using it in, like, marathons, because it's funny. But unfortunately, I couldn't get it to work consistently, and if I can't get it consistently, there's no reason to do it. But that's phase 1. Gotta mash through a little bit of dialogue, and we're on to phase 2, where the boss grows a giant pair of legs.
This is a sign of power in Transmute's culture. The larger thighs you have, the more powerful you are.
I'm pretty sure that's true in most cultures, I feel.
I like to think so.
But the funny thing is, we mentioned how difficult phase 2 is if you don't know, like, where it's safe to heal and everything. Once you do know what you're doing, phase 2 is a pushover. To the point where I feel comfortable damage boosting during it.
It is very, very consistent. Each move is telegraphed extremely well. It's one of those fights where casually you're panicking because you just went through the first phase and that was pretty difficult, and now you're wondering what's going on. Also, did he just shockwave midair?
He phase transitioned midair. And because of that, I think it just spat out the shockwave because it was mid-phase transition in midair. Alright, and that's phase 2. And time is coming up. And time.
GG.
GG.
Thank you. I am not thrilled with that time, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
Sometimes it's the way she goes.
Yeah.
Sometimes she goes, today she didn't. But I still really enjoyed your run, and I know chat did too. So if we want to see more of your runs, where can we find you, Sam?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/illegallysam. I run mostly indie games, sometimes not indie games. Right now I am in the middle of learning Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 for another marathon. That is definitely a game of all time, especially if you like Dragon Ball, but if you want to see more of me or whatever weird games I'm running at the time, feel free to check me out.
That sounds like a good time. Snap, do you have any shout-outs to make?
Dials will stream, but not speedruns. I do a lot of retro achievements. Otherwise, yeah, I will shout out Sam. I will shout out the small Rebel Transmute community that banded together to find everything we found here. A lot of really cool stuff. A lot of really good labbing done. Definitely give this game a check.
I forget if it's still on sale, but I did notice it was on sale for half off, like, earlier this week. So if it is still on sale, it's on sale for $10.
I love a good sale. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, chat, for supporting Little Warriors. We are going to go to a quick break, so go and stretch, and when we come back, I will be gone, but Curry Toss KRT is going to be here, and I can promise you, you are going to be in great hands with him. So yeah, go fill those water bottles, and we will be right back.